If you have stumbled upon this podcast, it's not by chance. I'm Alex, and I'm so excited for you to join me in each episode as I dive headfirst into the highs, lows, and utterly wild twists of my life. I take you on my journey to feeling fully aligned and unapologetically myself. I'm here to show you that everything in life happens for a reason and nothing is by chance. Let's get into today's episode. This is a very exciting day. Dee Zibara, my best friend in the whole world. This is the first guest episode of Not by Chance. This is a milestone moment for me, a really exciting moment, and you know this firsthand. This podcast has been a really long time coming, almost a decade. So when I envisioned this podcast, Not by Chance, I really envisioned interviewing incredible people. That was the thing for me that made me most excited. Yes, telling my story, yes, sharing myself, but more importantly and more excitedly was sharing other people's stories. So the fact that you are my first guest, I feel like this is just perfect. And I want to talk a little bit about what not by chance means, especially with having guests on. Not by chance is the belief that every moment is part of a greater design, shaping you into the person you are meant to become and building a life from that place. I'm sharing stories of people I feel are living proof of this concept. So Not by Chance really is about living life with intention, on purpose. And I cannot think of a greater woman who lives their life that way. And that is why I'm so honored to have you here. And I'm going to speak a little bit, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro and how we know each other, and then we'll get into the episode. So Dee Zibara, welcome to Not by Chance.
Oh my gosh, I am so honored to be here. My heart literally has exploded with what you have just said. Like, I'm so ready for this episode.
I feel like this is just one of our standard day-to-day conversations, and we're just recording it and putting it out to the universe. So it's just
And
pretty much our standard.
haven't we always said that? Like every
Literally.
time we have a juicy conversation, we're like, we need to capture this. People need
And
to
now
hear.
we are. And now we are. I have a feeling you're going to be a series regular, babe. So Dee Zibara, a little intro. This is an honor of mine to introduce you to my community, to the Not by Chance listeners. So Dee Zibara is most importantly a mother of two little babies. We've got Phoenix, who's 2, and Billy, who's 7. Oh, sorry, Phoenix is almost 2, and Billy, who is 7. You are a hormone and fertility specialist. You have an incredible program right now called Fertility Magic, which is helping women with fertility and all things hormones from a natural, holistic approach. And we will get into talking about that. You also are part of a network marketing business called Enagic, which is all around water health and selling products that help people with water health. And you are the biggest water passionate fiend I've ever met. I've never known anyone who loves water more than Dee Zibara. You have a podcast, What a Mouthful, that's called What a Mouthful, and it has a beautiful library of health and personal development resources. I feel like you've covered so many different things in your podcast. You are a 6-figure businesswoman on the way to her millions, and you are living life on purpose. As I said, I feel like you live life on your own terms. You live life on purpose, and that is why I'm so excited to showcase you and your life today. And how I know you is, I just love our story. We actually met in high school, and whilst we had love for one another, we weren't that close in high school, but we reconnected after high school when I started my very first business, Atria, which was a directory of providers. And Dee was doing her thing. She was out there in the world spreading her mission around hormonal health. And I was also going through some hormonal issues with PMDD. If you want to go back and listen to my episodes all around that, that's in previous episodes. And Dee was a pivotal point in my PMDD healing. I did her program FlowFit, which it has formed so much of the foundations of my health. And we connected through that, but also through Atria. And just from there, I feel like we learnt how much we shared the same values and beliefs and building the life that we both are building. It was so similar. I've never felt more seen by a human being when it comes to you. You are that woman for me that makes me feel like I can do anything. And even this podcast today, the way we started, guys, was Dee just hyped me up. And it was just a moment of like, this is so special that I get to interview this woman, but she's also my best friend. So, Dee Zibara, I'm going to say it again. Welcome to Not By Chance. It's an honor to have you, babe.
Oh my God, I'm just holding back the tears because it's an honor to be someone who's so special to you because you're so special to me.
Guys, this podcast is pretty much just going to be me and Dee loving on each other. So
yeah, that's right.
so sorry about that. No,
Quick,
actually,
ask me
not
the question
sorry.
before I start crying.
Yeah, no, love it. You know what? Let's just dive into it because there is so much I want to cover today, so much goodness. And it really does go back to the intention of building a life on purpose. And with that, I want to start at what I like to call the fork in the road moment. And I feel that this for people is a pivotal point in their journey, usually where they have like an awakening or they just become more conscious in their life around how they want to live. And I believe, based on my own experience and others, that it usually stems from some kind of hardship, some kind of hard challenge in life. And it really just shakes you up and shakes all of your values and beliefs and turns it on its head. And you stand at that fork in the road moment where you can go, I'm going down one way or I'm going down another. So can you tell me, what do you believe that first fork in the road moment or a pivotal one, and how did that shape you?
So that was easily when I was 18. And that's when I went to, I remember Sydney's top endocrinologist and was like, what is wrong with me? I had all of these symptoms and I couldn't figure it out. My period never came and I had a bit of like anxiety and I was trying to go on the pill and I was just trying to like figure out why I didn't feel in control of my own body. And he told me, you have PCOS. There's nothing you can do about it. Here's the pill. And when you want to have kids, come back for IVF. And I remember asking, well, is there anything that I can do? Like I'm driven. Like, you tell me what to do, I'll do it. Like, is there a path? Has somebody overcome this before? And he was like, no, you're going to need to come back. You are just not going to be able to have kids without IVF. And I remember thinking to myself, there has to be another way. And if there's not, I'm going to be the person to find it. So that was
chills everywhere, because that is you in a nutshell. Is like, you are one of the most like driven people, and we are going to talk about this later. You are a rebel. There is no such thing as no in your language. It's just, how do we do this? And that is why I think you're so successful at what you're building in your business and your life. And yeah, I really feel like that fork in the road moment for you. Can you tell me why you feel like that was such a pivotal point? Obviously, the health side of it, and feeling like, no, this can't be it. But why do you feel like that was the time that set you on that journey? Like, what was it about that time that really was impactful?
because I was looking for answers from people who should have had the answers. You know, society made us believe that they're the people who are the kind of rulers and the like authorities on our health. So they have the answers. And so when they didn't have an answer that felt aligned for me or recognize the true intelligence of the human body, which, you know, if you've, I mean, even the miracle of life, tell me that's not divine intelligence. And having that moment, feeling so like someone just like ripped my dreams from me, because my dream in life has always been to be a mom. There's never been a question in my life. And so when it felt like that happened, and it was like, there's nothing you can do, and I was, you know, still feeling, you know, out of control in my body, but there was nothing else wrong with me. I was like, this just does not feel right to me. And it was kind of like this like deep in my loins moment of like, no, that will not be my fate.
So looking back now with the insight and the hindsight that you have, but at the time, for anyone having their fork in the road moment right now, you just said that there was that intelligence inside of you that knew Is that what it felt like? Like that, I guess I'm thinking of the person who's having that moment and they're like, isn't it like, because it is such a pivotal moment, did it feel like a pivotal moment at the time?
100%. Because when you ask yourself a question, is it this way or is it that way? Your body, if you listen close enough, will tell you the answer. And here is what I like to do. If it's A or B, this path or that path, I will ask myself, I will pretend like I'm answering the question to myself and I'll say, yep, this is the path. I'm going all medical. I'm taking it for what it is. I'm trusting the doctor. And I'll ask myself and I'll just kind of say, yep, that's what I'm doing. And then I'll kind of wait to see what my body's response is to that.
Yeah, right.
And then I'll ask myself, okay, let's flip that. Let's pretend that my answer is, I'm going rogue. I'm going to figure this out myself. There has to be an answer. I'll find it. If not, I trust myself. I'll figure it out.
Why do you feel like a lot of people ignore that moment? Like, what do you think for you in that moment made it so easy to listen versus the moments where it just keeps not getting listened to?
I think I'm really biased in this response. When you have clarity in your cells, so like when you're actually eating well, nourishing yourself well, listening to your body, responding and the actions that you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis is so that you're actually working with your body. I feel like the intelligence of your body, like the answers that you're looking for that are literally inside you, they're like the inner voice that is the calm, grounded version of you. You can hear them better when you're actually more quote unquote healthy. And that's physically and emotionally and energetically as well. So I feel like a lot of people aren't able to get to even hearing that voice because they actually either don't have the tools yet to fully look after themselves from a cell to soul perspective, like that 360 holistic perspective.
Nice drop in there. That's the name of Dee's first business name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like the foundation that lives on because it makes so much sense. We are physical cells, but we are also energetic souls. That's what we are. That's life. That's the creation of life. That is who we are at the core level of us. 99.9% space. We're energy mostly. But not being able to hear that, I think, is just such a common story for people. So I find the most interesting thing is that when I work with people and I help them with their health, it's like they can tap into their own intuition more strongly because there's this saying that a friend of mine and I made up. It was like, eat right for more light.
Oh, I love that.
And like eating is, we can just look at that as nourishment.
Interchangeable. Yeah.
Right. It's like you're actually a channel, a vessel to be able to hear divine consciousness, but also your own innate wisdom, because they are always connecting and always talking. They're always in communication, just like our gut brain axis. Same thing, it's like internally that's mirrored externally and beyond us and outside of us. And to be able to tap into that, it's like we need to be a more clear channel. And so being able to look after our health and remove energetic blocks, remove, or I guess manage our own emotions and clear stuff that has been stuck on us. It's like shining off a diamond, and you shine a light through a diamond, and then it can be, that light and you can see clearly after that.
I love that analogy so much. And when I was listening, I was like, I know exactly what that feels like. And my story. I feel like that is for so many years, and not just with the PMDD, but for me with my health, it really has been more than anything around the emotional side and energetic side for me. The more that I have cleaned out energetically and emotionally, dealt with childhood conditioning and trauma and wounds and things like that, the more that other things in my life, like the eating, the daily habits, all of that have been able to happen. I really do think that that's a part that people miss, is we're so overwhelmed. I'll speak for myself. I was so overwhelmed by emotional and energetic blocks and the noise in my head, as if I could eat well that day. I was emotionally eating all the time, or as if I couldn't stop escaping with certain behavior that wasn't going to nourish my soul or my body. So I hear you when you say, when you clear out those things, and at the time, I think that's why it's so difficult, because it is so overwhelming. And I think this is a really good time to go into the way that you see health in general, like your pillars of fertility magic, for example. You have a very unique view of hormones, health, and the body, mind, and the soul. Can you speak to a little bit about how you do see just everything that I just explained?
So I see the way that we move through the world as our like physical body, right? The way, the decisions that we make and actions that we take, that's all kind of like our physical body. And then there are messengers within that, right? Like there are hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers, but they are also imprinted and kind of stained with the energy in which they were made, right? So hormones as chemical messengers kind of help to like go through our body and work, and it'll work around, like it'll bypass like issues and it'll kind of like work around issues. That's where we get like disease or symptoms that aren't working so well, and that shows up as symptoms. And if we listen to that, then we can kind of go back to the map and go, okay, based off this thing that I've got going on here, I see that that's the link, the thing that I need to focus on, the thing that I need to sort out. But then within the body, there's always a mirror response. You know, literally our internal world is a direct reflection. If we can see the patterns, if we can find the links, it's up to us to link it with our external world. So like literally what happens within our body and things maybe that are happening in our relationship, or our relationship to people, our relationship to money, our relationship to our environment or our home or our upbringing or whatever it is reflected within our body at the same time. And that's again where that cell to soul kind of universal understanding of health and our bodies, that's where it all comes packaged together. Like it all actually works together. And I'll give you an example. So I often have a lot of women come to me hormonally. They have issues like they've got PMDD, PMS, PCOS, endometriosis, unable to fall pregnant. And if we just look at really any of those, or even actually, here's an even better example that I think a lot more people can relate to. Let's just look at holding on to stubborn weight. So holding on to stubborn weight, from my perspective, what is required is the removal of toxins. Why? Because toxins live in fat cells, because that's the only place that they can be safe from the vital organs. This is the whole reason I started unpicking like detoxification as well. I did that early on for my own fertility journey, but then for clients who weren't just trying to fall pregnant, I started to see this pattern. Oh, okay. Well, actually, when they have a high toxic load, they're unable to lose weight. Yeah. But then on the flip side, I actually have a lot of clients that experience a lot of shame around, and here's probably what you don't expect, a lot of shame around being thin, being skinny, being desirable, being sexy, being attractive. And actually an example of where that comes from is some kind of shame around a time either in their life, or it could be like when they were younger, maybe they've inherited this from their ancestors or generations above them, where actually there's been some kind of maybe trauma, or sort of they've been sexualized.
Yeah.
And actually what happens then is they feel fear and they feel ashamed or shamed by others when they kind of look sexy and hot. And so actually when I'm helping people with weight loss, it's not just that we're trying to calories in, calories out. There's that very, very tip of the iceberg layer. Then there's hormones, then there's detoxification, but then there's this other stuff like, okay, will you say, Yeah. And you say you want to lose weight, but actually if you got that outcome, if you did lose weight, what are you scared of when you actually get that thing? It's like we say to the universe, we want this thing, we want this thing, we want this thing. But then at the core of that, the undercurrent of what we're putting out there is actually, I actually don't want that thing, because that thing is going to lead to something that I don't want more than staying the same.
It's like fear of failure, right? Like when people say they want success, but then these things come up and it actually turns out they're actually afraid of the responsibility that then comes with success, or they feel like they can't hold it, or they feel like and so they self-sabotage. And I really want to sum up what you're saying with a personal example of mine. And you would remember this. You actually were staying with me when I had this shift in realization around expectations. So for me, with my PMDD symptoms, I had a massive breakthrough, and the cycles that followed after this it was an insane comparison. I had changed everything, diet, movement, everything. I was cycle syncing. I was doing all the things, right? However, in my mind, I was constantly on a loop around expectations, the to-do list showing up, like guilt, shame. I had all these things going on daily that were creating this emotional state in my body, which was causing stress, which was then causing my hormones to do their thing. And I think this is such a prime example of what you're talking about there, where I was holding on to symptoms. Let's change it from weight to symptoms. I had breast tenderness. I had some like stubborn symptoms that just wouldn't go. And as soon as I released this expectation and guilt, and there was so much deeper to it, I'll just leave it at that. My cycles that followed were completely different. So I am absolutely in agreement with you, but I'm also living proof that what you're talking about is 1,000% true. And I think Al and I actually had this conversation last night at dinner. Sometimes people find this hard to believe because it hasn't been put to them in a way that's believable. So, for example, we were talking about how we became spiritual and when we became spiritual, and how many times before that he was telling me how he got he watched The Secret, right, when he was 21, and he was made to watch it and forced to watch it. And at the time, he just did not care. It was just presented to him in a way, the information in a way that just did not resonate with him. So he didn't listen to it. He couldn't hear it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because what we're talking about right now is such important information. But I think the world, going back to why people don't listen and why people can't hear these things, is because the information, I think, is presented in a way where they're like, that's so unbelievable. I don't get that. But when you give examples like you're giving about your clients, I'm giving like me, these are real life experiences and examples of how this shows up in the world and why you do the work that you do and why it's been successful.
Yeah. And it's also like listening to people, right? I feel like unless you've had an embodied experience where you've actually felt how something feels, it's kind of like, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes. Yes.
And so when you have that experience yourself, then you're like, oh my gosh. But people often don't listen to other people saying, hey, I've had this experience. They just shut it off and they're like, well, that's not my experience. I'm not even open to understanding the possibility of that because they haven't experienced it for themselves. And most people will wait until they're in so much pain to then go, oh, wait a second, that thing that I was exposed to 3 years ago, that is now clicking for me because I've had to experience so much pain. But also that's the human condition. What I was saying before is when it comes to, because I think hormones is a good example because it's such a prevalent issue for so many people. When you link back hormones to the chakras of the body, the one that is over our uterus is all about guilt and shame.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm saying like that inner and outer like reflection is happening. It's literally your body and where your energy centers sit is a mirror to what's actually happening, the symptoms that you're experiencing. It's the same with like infertility and like sexual trauma as well. Like a lot of people like have that's really married and sitting in their womb space, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's really important to like have both sides. And we've been in our Western society, there's so much science and there's so much, well, we've proven this and we've proven that, and they're tangible outcomes, but what's often really hard is the intangible. And essentially the intangible is faith, is trust, is actually like what people think is crazy. If people think you're crazy, then you have faith.
Yeah.
Because you're trusting something that hasn't happened yet. And those people that can see other people's experiences or hear what their grandparents are trying to tell them about the world and about life, and they're like, oh, okay, like I'm going to take that on board before I have the pain that requires me to have an embodied experience of what you're talking about. Like that's where people can really start to totally change their health, because they have that faith, that soul, that energetic side of things, which is what I consider, when people are religious or spiritual, they're often the people that are holistically the healthiest.
100%.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I love that so much. And I want to stay on the fork in the road moments and kind of go back to your story a little bit too. Were there any other fork in the road moments for you that have contributed to shaping Dee Zibara and how you are living life now?
For sure. So I don't know how much we want to go into this, but choosing to step into basically what people think is an MLM business, so multi-level marketing business, 100% was a rebel move. But then so was like fertility magic. Creating fertility magic is fully going against the medical green. It's fully going against what's like accepted and what society thinks is the right thing to do. But they, both led me to my deepest alignment that I could possibly imagine.
Well, that is perfectly aligned with where I'm going next, which is to talk about the rebel life, baby, because you are a rebel and so am I, and we always have been. I think, like I said, and when you were speaking about it, like the word no doesn't really sit well with you and I. We do not like limitations. We don't like being told we can't do things a certain way. Of course, within reason, we're not crazy people, but we like living life on our own terms and breaking through limiting beliefs and conditioning that don't really resonate with us, that don't make sense to us, that are part of systems and structures and constraints, I feel, in this world that are here to put us in a box or to cause shame and fear and to live in ways that I deem to be heavily toxic, quite honestly. And to your point about the rebel life, like you are such a you're just so incredible at, and I was there for when you joined the network marketing business or the MLM. And it was so beautiful watching you go through this, because it was like, I watched you like go from, can I do this? Like, am I actually going to do this? What are people going to think of me? Am I going to be one of those people that annoys people, blah, 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 blah. But you were so passionate about the product and about the business and what they were doing, it almost stopped you. It really did for a second. Like, I think I remember feeling like, oh, is she not? It took you a minute to get to that place. I even think this about, the business that I'm building, online coaching, what you're doing in specializing with fertility magic and fertility. I feel it about even just, for example, you shared your home birth on your social media, and there was so many components to that were controversial. My questions are around when somebody is at the precipice, I think that's the right word, the start of moving towards living life on their own terms. So much comes up, fear of judgment, what will other people think? And mainly it's usually their loved ones, and things like that. Can you talk to me about your challenges during that time of going into a NAGIC? And yeah, how did you overcome them? How did you move forward and do the thing?
Everybody goes through, I believe, everybody goes through what are people going to think of me, and all of the personal meanings that they attach to the way that they choose to earn, right? Everyone's going to go through that. And I think for me, my biggest thing, which is also ties into my blocks around money, because everything's a mirror, I was worried about, what if people think I don't actually care? Like, I'm this, trusted source of health information. People know that they can trust me. I'm knowledgeable. I actually was really aware that my reputation was on the line with the product, with the K8, which is the Kangen water machine, that I chose to invest in, that I then decided, okay, well, I'm going to get affiliate commissions out of this because I love this product. People always want to know what I'm drinking, eating, doing anyways, because I am an embodied, you know, I'm embodied in what I preach. Like I actually walk the walk. So for me, I was really worried. And again, this is mirrored in my money story, that people will think I don't care. And for me, that is like the biggest criticism someone could ever give me. They're like, you just don't care. You're just out for people's money. Because I care so much. But the thing is that I heard, which like has always stuck with me, when you choose the path that no one understands, criticism is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I got over that is actually maybe something that your listeners could do right now, or a little bit of homework for themselves, because you need to build your emotional muscle. You have to be willing for people to be wrong about you. You have to be. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. And if you don't want the shadow side, you don't get the light side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to be willing to accept it, pros and cons, good and bad, all of it. And the thing that I did for myself was I actually, and this is what I often tell people to do. I wrote down the most cutthroat, nastiest, meanest comment that if I heard someone say, or if I saw someone write on my socials or whatever, would absolutely cut me to my core. And then I unpicked the shit out of that. And I confronted myself with it. And I thought, you know what? No one gets to pull my power away from me. If that's going to be something I have to face, I'm going to do it on my own terms, instead of waiting for the world to try to cut me down. I'm actually going to confront it in my own time, in my safe space. And then I'm going to give myself time to integrate that afterwards. I'm going to pick it apart. I'm going to say, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to pretend like I'm having a conversation with somebody who like literally is the polar opposite of my beliefs on this particular subject or whatever. And I'm going to have that conversation kind of with myself. You said we're not crazy people. I think I'm a crazy person. I think you are.
Well, you have to be slightly delusional,
kind of
I feel. Yep,
yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
So that's crazy. People think that's crazy. But what that's done for me is build my emotional muscle in a way that no one else can fuck with me but me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Dee Zibara is my best friend. Quite honestly, like imagine being around this all the time. How can you not follow your dreams? How can you not build a life that you're in love with? Because this is what you're getting daily. Honestly, babe, that is such a beautiful way. Firstly, the fact that you're just the type of person that does the work. And that's what I think is so important to say here, and a little bit of tough love to listeners who are maybe going through their thing. There's going to be uncomfortable things that happen. Do you think starting this podcast was easy? Oh my gosh. And even this episode and the way we're talking, I'm saying some things that I haven't yet said. I'm putting beliefs and values and things that I haven't yet put out into the world. And you've done this a million times. You're an expert with this, but it is scary because you're like, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? But it doesn't, like, if you live a life and build a life based on everyone else but you, that is a quick recipe to being miserable, quite honestly. And what a way to live where you're living on everyone else's terms but your own. I think I want to stay on the fertility stuff a little bit because that is such I mean, you have helped so many women get pregnant. That is something that fertility is such a sensitive and I think divisive, I would say divisive subject because, and my mom went through IVF. I am a huge advocate for whichever way works for a person. But what I love that you are doing in the world is offering people another way. And I think that that is really important. Having options in this day and age, like realistically, it was like IVF and nothing else. And fertility and the way you've chosen to see fertility and then bring it to the world is rebellious. It is controversial. Yet you're helping hundreds of women with their thousands and thousands and thousands, whether it's through your following on Instagram. then through your actual programs, you're getting women pregnant. You are helping them, and couples, men and women. This isn't just for women, this is for men too. But you're not only just getting them pregnant, you're changing their lives. They then up level in all areas of their lives. They're living healthier, happy lives. You and I have conversations about your clients all the time. Obviously, you don't tell me specific details, but you just tell me the results that are coming through. And I am just blown away by it. Yet it's still, and I've said this to you before, I think you've done something before its time. And there is so much, I guess, fear, and not fear, but there's so much to that could stop you, but it hasn't. And that, I believe, also goes to self-belief. So I want to talk about, how do you love yourself so much, Dee Zibara? Like, how do you back yourself so much? Why, where does that come from with you?
Honestly, because of course I have wobbly moments. Sometimes I have wobbly months, you know, but I always remember my mission is bigger than my ego. And I know what my mission is in life. And it's okay if my ego gets a couple knocks, because being seen and having people hear what I have to say is actually worth it. I know I have full confidence, 100% unshakable certainty that not only am I doing what I'm meant to be doing with my life, but that my work is going to have a global impact. I just know it. I can't explain it. I just know it. And so for me, if I let one little knock stop me, and I actually flip it to think about the people who miss out on what I have to offer and how I can help and serve them, that for me is a bigger tragedy than any single small 1% negative comment or hard day or hard time could ever be. And so for me, it's literally just, you know, people always say I anchor it back into my why. I had to make that such a clear picture in my mind of helping parents and helping like average humans in this tough day and age transcend their parents. Like babies transcend their parents, so that every generation that comes through is high frequency, healthy, strong, resilient, happy. Like they don't have the suffering that we're seeing even children in this modern age experience. And so it's not about like forgetting about this generation being like, yeah, tough, that's going to be hard for you. Let's make some better babies for a better generation. It's, we're put on this earth as people to educate our parents.
Yeah.
My earliest mentor told me that, and I didn't quite understand it until I became a parent myself. And now I see that these little spirits just fresh out of the portal, fresh out of the spirit realm, they're coming in for a purpose. They are perfectly matched for their parents, because their soul path, whatever dynamics it is, they are here to educate their parents. And so these little babies that are coming in are here to show the parents that are struggling right now to fall pregnant the work that needs to be done, not only in order to bring them into this life, but to help them thrive so that they can become the leaders in this world that we need. And that is such a clear, crystal clear image in my brain of how much I know my impact actually, how far my impact is actually going. That for me, whether people recognize it's my help or my work or not, I know the ripple effects of what I'm helping them to set up by not only falling pregnant, which is all they're kind of focused on oftentimes. I zoom all the way out, and I know that this has a bigger ripple effect. I just know it.
No, I see it. And it's even, to go back to FlowFit, what I did there, I would not be able to sit here and be in my mission, which is what I feel I'm doing right now, if I didn't have those foundations set up that I learned through you. So that's the ripple effect, is I'm now living my dream life and I'm creating more of my dream. And I have big, beautiful, ambitious goals. I could not do that if I didn't have my health and my mind sorted and my energetics. And it just keeps coming back to that place, you know, I have some beautiful friends that I speak to often, and they've got health things that they're navigating. They've got things, you know, in the mind they're navigating. And I really do believe that, and what I say to them is, in hindsight, stay focused on those pillars, stay focused on those things, stay patient, take a breath, because what's going to come on the other side, it's like an arrow. It's got to go back a little bit to shoot forward so far. And now that I know this, like if you told me that when I was going through it, I would have been like, yeah, cool, that's nice for you. I didn't believe it. And I'm not the most patient person, but naturally, you know, I was struggling, I was in pain. And then for someone to say that to me, it was tough to hear. However, I'm saying this with evidence now. Focus on those pillars, focus on the thing that is going to help you get healthy and happy, then the wealth follows. And what I mean by wealth is the living life on purpose, the dream, the feelings, yes, the money. You cannot hold wealth and money and abundance and all of the things if you do not have strong systems in your body. My financial situation has only gotten better as I've done the inner work, and that, you know, that's the mind and the body. So I hear you and I see the ripple effect, and I am living proof of your ripple effect. What a beautiful thing.
Like, that is like, I'm actually speechless.
Yeah. Same. I think it's perfect to move on to the next part, which I feel I want to stay on wealth and I want to stay on your calling. I know this about your story, so I hope you don't mind me speaking for you a little bit here. But part of Enagic and the network marketing business was because you had this mission with fertility magic and hormonal health in general. However, you know, getting to that place of where you can fund that dream and fund your life. You've got two beautiful children, you have a partner, you have a life to pay for. You needed to find ways to bring in income. And I think that like originally in the beginning, it wanted to be strictly the, for lack of a better phrase, coaching business, but you've done it a different way. And I think in my mind, that's opened up that it doesn't have to be one way to make income, or it doesn't have to be the specific way you were first envisioned. When you're doing something that feels like your purpose, feels like your soul aligned calling, can you talk me through that time of navigating, trying to find an income, but being on mission?
And specifically around Enagic?
Just in general, what that felt like of the first before finding Enagic, the struggle, I guess that I'm speaking to the challenge of you've got this mission. You're on point with where you're going, and you know you're going to get there. But maybe that vision, or maybe that way is, it's not going to bring you the immediate income, and you have a life to fund. You then found Enagic, that was your thing. But can you talk through the bit before that of how that felt to deal with that challenge and how you then found Enagic?
So as a business owner, and when you literally, I feel like this is actually every business owner. Every business owner finds a solution to a problem that they probably experienced themselves or someone close to them experienced in some way, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so that business is more than a business. It's literally their mission work. And so when you go into mission work, you are literally going into self-development on crack, because what comes up for you is all of these mirrors that need to be held for your business to be successful, right? And success, there's stages of success. Because what I truly believe is that business is a direct reflection of the inner work. Like, I really do. I really do. And obviously, yes, there's the monetary value. It's how much you can make from your business, yes. But it's the 360 personal development that comes with it. And so I remember feeling stuck, like I couldn't make enough money, but I couldn't let go of my mission. And I felt like I didn't want to put so much pressure on my mission work. I was like, this is slow burn, baby. This is before its time, like you said. Like, this is something that will be my forever work anyway. So why am I putting so much pressure? I don't ever want people to feel that energy of like, oh, I'm desperate for a sale, so this could be right for you. Maybe not 100% right, but I just push you into the sale anyway. Like I never wanted that. I wanted to make sure that every fraction of energy that went into a sale of any of my programs, particularly Fertility Magic, where the alternative is like cold clinical landscape, and I wanted to show people I care. It's my highest value. In that sacred journey, I discovered, okay, I need an extra stream of income. And another value that I had was Gus and I being equal present parents. And so he was doing his work and my work was getting a little bit stuck because, you know, something was off there. And so I knew that I needed time to develop my skills on helping me find the people whose work matched their needs, you know, like really needed what I had to offer. But I knew that that would take some time. And so I had to accept that that would take some time, and that even though I am a divine energetic being, I also have to pay some bills. That was a harsh reality that I was like, I can't just leave and be my Pisces self and live in dream world. I have to actually anchor that down into being supported. And that for my nervous system feels good to be able to support and provide for my family. And Gus and I being able to do that together. And so we made this decision together to then, well, this is kind of a fast forwarded version, but after I found the product Kangen water and I loved it so much, and I realized, well, everyone's doing affiliate codes. I'm even doing affiliate codes and stuff like that. So why not share what I love and make money from it? Like to me, that's a win-win. I'm still helping people. That's not a pyramid scheme because there's an actual product I'm obsessed with. Then for me, I thought, wow, okay, I actually am faced with this like big trigger. And for me, I've always known that my highest self is on path when I face my triggers head on. And so I literally navigate life through how my body feels in reaction and response to what's happening. So that looks like if, and I'll give an exact example because this happened to me. If I think about, okay, I love Kangen water. I can share these machines. People can buy them and I can make money. And I can actually start that as a business that is such high ticket and such high commissions that, wow, one sale of those would be equivalent to 10 of what I was selling before. If I can use that income to help support my life, my family, and still help people and put no pressure on my mission work, for me at that time, and, you know, I had a conversation with Gus, I was like, well, that makes sense. But the specific thing that I had to navigate was the trigger of imagining myself do it and then imagining someone say something, or imagining someone in my family being like, oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah, you're in health, but you're using your health credentials to make lots of money. And people who make lots of money, they don't give a shit about people. They're ruthless. They're out of touch. They're disconnected. And so for me, because I had such a visceral response to that, my higher self, like my brain was like, oh, I know when I am faced with discomfort, if I don't attack this head on, if I don't challenge myself to walk directly into the fog, then I know that is not going to serve me or anyone around me. And I know it's going to lead to more pain than the discomfort of attacking my trigger head on. And so literally, it was kind of like it was so scary that I knew I had to do it.
Yeah, there was no other choice.
There was no other choice for me. Yeah.
And I want to stay on the subject of money because everything you just said blends so beautifully with, I truly do believe prosperity is becoming more and more real in the world. People are starting to open their minds to the way they earn money, and like money, I am sure the listeners have heard this a million times. Money is simply energy, it's opportunity. You know, these are my beliefs on money. It is energy, it's opportunity, it is freedom. I do believe freedom is a mindset as well, but it does buy you things in life that help to make your life feel more in alignment. That is just the truth of it. And I think that the world has had this system and belief system around money being bad, or only rich people are bad. I've had these limiting beliefs. My limiting beliefs around money is very similar to you, that if I make good money, people won't think that I'm trying to help, or people won't think that I care, which is so far from the freaking truth. But do I want to live an amazing life? Do I want to travel around? Do I want to live in a house that, you know, has all the things that I want? Like, do I want to live in a luxurious, pleasurable way? Absolutely. Do I also want to help as many people as I possibly can? Absolutely. And do I also just have day-to-day bills? Yes. I think there is this, I can't think of the right word. It's like this repelling nature when it comes to making money. And I just think that that is like, it's our inherent right to earn good money. I truly do believe that for every person. And what gets in the way are limiting beliefs and blocks. I used to be someone that would think that only people with money were bad. There's no such thing. But my belief now is that more good people like you and I need money. And we are the ones that are going to contribute to the world in a positive way to help turn it to other ways. Can I ask around your money mindset, your money journey? Because I think that they really do go hand in hand, mission and money. I really do believe the more money, the more impact. And of course, you can make impact. You don't need to be a millionaire and all of that, but it does create more opportunities. And if we're talking nervous system and safety, you can breathe and you're not worried. I'm going through that right now, really feeling what it's like to not worry about my bills and therefore be able to focus on what's important to me and meaningful, which ripples out to the rest of the world. When I am doing what I am meant to be doing, when I'm in alignment, when I'm living a life on purpose, the world benefits from that. So can you talk to me about your story with money and how you have overcome certain limitations?
This is like the answer in a nutshell. And again, I'm not perfect and I have wobbly days and wobbly months and all of that. And it's easy to flip back into a mindset of scarcity. I mean, I recently figured out that I come from a line of criminals.
What?
I
Oh
come
my
from,
gosh.
I know. So
Scandalous.
I know my nana, her father was like in jail, in and out of jail, like a lot, because he was stealing. Why? Because his mother, he was an illegitimate child. His mother took all the money because there was like lines to royalty. His mother took all of his inheritance, took all of his money and took it away. And so there was like a loss and a scarcity. And for me, loss. Having money has been less of a problem for me, like making money, I should say, making money. And actually, this is kind of like the second half of my journey, because initially it was like, oh, well, I can't make money. I don't come from a family who makes lots of money, so I can't make lots of money. It was just like, oh, I am a product of my environment, to then going, oh, wait a second, I create my own reality, to then going, okay, well, now I can make money. Now it's about not losing money. And that is, if I'm really honest, that is still, there's levels of that I'm still working through now. That's just where I'm currently at in my journey. The journey never ends. We're always a work in progress. We're always learning and evolving and new level, new devil. But what I always anchor back into is my perspective that shifted, that helped me start to make lots of money. Money is gratitude.
Oh, I love that.
Gratitude. Yeah. Because if you think about it, you need something. So you go online, you Google it, you find it, and you pay for it. But that's you actually going, oh, thank God. Thank you that someone has made this thing that I need right now. It's gratitude. And so by you recognizing that when you're buying something, when you're spending money, that's actually you being grateful for something. If you can amplify that and expand that, then if you think about it in reverse, you're asking someone to pay money so you can exchange value for that. They're saying, thank you for making that thing that I need. This is going to help me in so many ways. But then the actual number, the value of how much gratitude you're receiving is based off how you determine the value of that thing. So let's say, for example, you're buying a phone. You're paying what, $2,000 for that phone. You're grateful that you've got the phone, but what that phone is actually doing for you, if we look at the gratitude of having phones, it keeps us connected. Sure, it has its toxic, there's polarity to that as well. but it keeps you connected. It keeps you contactable. If you need someone, if you need support, if you need help, you can call 000. You have literally like a little pocket support in your hand. It allows you to build a business. It allows you to, like, there's so many things that it allows you to have. And so the value of that phone is far greater than $2,000. So technically, Apple could charge you $10,000 if they wanted to. And really all it is what value does the buyer assign to the thing that they're buying? And if the person who is selling can help you see and highlight all of that potential value, then they can charge a higher price. That still is that person, the buyer is still going, wow, I see all that value. Yes, I will pay that high price because I can see what you're talking about. I see what you see. And so that's where it all kind of shifted for me. It was like, okay, well, if money is actually gratitude and it's basically people saying thank you, then there's a limitless amount of people we can help and serve and support. And there's actually a limitless amount of gratitude we can feel for what we already have. And then if we also think that money is energy, well, if money is just an energy of gratitude and we're feeling grateful for the things that we're buying and the things that we're selling, that's limitless. That should be limitless.
That makes me, like, I've never heard someone put it in that language, and it just instantly, because what we're talking about here is energetics. We're talking about when you're in the energy of gratitude, you're going to attract more gratitude. Yes, manifestation, all of the things, like attracts like. If you're, for example, and I have felt this firsthand, if you're exchanging money, you're making a transaction and you're feeling guilt, you're feeling shame, you're feeling, and of course, we're not talking about where you have a plan and that plan requires discipline. You've got other things in your life you need to invest in, having structures, having systems, because that also is important and causes safety. But if you are also doing all of that stuff and then you're also feeling guilty every time you spend, why would it come back to you?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's energetically, you're basically saying to that thing, oh, no, thank you. And so it's not going to be like, oh, no, thank you. And I'll use an example that my previous coach, incredible analogy. She was like, you need to think of money as a friend. How would you treat your friend? Because that's how she will treat you back. So, and that's what I think that you're really saying there is like when you treat it a certain way, when you value it in a certain way and looking at the items, the things you're buying, the coach, the whatever it is, when you're connecting the value and the worthiness and the investment to that item, it's just, how can you not enjoy that experience? And then therefore it comes back to you. I feel like this is an advanced way of thinking, Dee. I really do. And I think that there is a lot of people, including myself, that are not quite fully there yet on some of these concepts. They're still building them. If you can go back to, you were back at the start of your journey and to the person that is maybe at the start of their journey, because what we are talking about here, it is stuff that we have worked through. It is the inner work of energetics and all the things. If you can go back to speak to Dee, who is at the start of her journey, what would you say to her around the next move of creating safety and a better relationship with her money?
Let's just say that we're talking to someone in a stable 9-to-5. And this is like them coming straight out of high school, then them finishing university or whatever it is, and going into the thing that they believe that they're going to do for the rest of their life. If people are kind of in that, like that space at the moment, and they're listening to this and something in them is getting excited about this conversation, like I would have had when I was working at Bratz Models way back in the day, like, you know, or I was working at like Affinity Diamonds. Like I've done 9-to-5s. I've done them before. And I remember just wondering, I wonder what it's like
to have more.
A cap.
Yeah.
What is more like? Because that's what I feel like I'm called to. And I guess the advice that I would give my younger self is, you have one life. Why would you waste any time, any moment, any second on not finding your deeper calling? And also trusting the next step. The next step is not going to be the dream. It's not going to be when you have millions of dollars. It's not going to be when you're impacting hundreds of thousands of people. Sometimes the next step looks totally different to what you think the next step on the journey is meant to look like. But trusting that your body will guide you to the next step. And if you have an inkling, or if you feel a little bit excited by something, or if you feel a little bit triggered by it, follow your feeling. Follow your feeling and know that there's more there for you, that the thing that feels different, the thing that feels either challenging or exciting, and probably both, if we're honest, is the next step, regardless of what it looks like. And so there's a big level of trust that you have to have here, because if the question in your mind is, what if there's more for me? What if my calling is bigger than what I'm doing now? Then you need to take a step. It doesn't have to be a perfect step. It just needs to be a step, but it has to be a step in a different direction. And it's most likely going to be a step that no one understands. Everyone's going to go, oh my gosh, why would you do that? You've got it all. You're crazy. You've got, you know, everything's so stable for you and everything. It's like you have to step out of the stability, the comfort, because growth doesn't happen there. It just does not. If it doesn't challenge you, if you are not saying to yourself, fuck me, this is hard. You ain't doing it right.
And, you know, I'll speak to this very moment right now as an example. You are my first guest on this podcast. I have an incredible vision for this podcast. I know it's going to happen. I just know in my soul, I have that faith and belief. Did I always have that? No, but I had a pull, and that's what you're talking about. I had an activation. I would listen to other women speaking how you and I are speaking right now, and it would just keep pulling me and activating me and triggering me. And so many times, like the amount of times I've had to not go on Instagram because somebody doing what I'm doing is triggering me, and I'm like, you know, it's just so intense. And to go back to this podcast right now, I have this vision. However, I'm at the very beginning. I am. That's what's beautiful about this moment. And for anyone listening, to even get to this point here, having you on the podcast, well, I had to do, not had to, but I chose to do some solo podcasts first and figure those out. Before that point, I chose to post on Instagram and figure that out. Before that point, I chose to write down my desires and what I want for my life. I think it's really important to speak to those beginning moments for most people who are at that stage. Like they have the pull, they have the inspiration. However, and a lot of the advice I feel sometimes is coming from a place of where they're, you know, 10 steps ahead. Whereas that first step is usually the hardest one because it's the unknown. And that's why I appreciate everything you just said there and speaking to your younger self, because I think that a lot of the listeners really are at that place in their life where they're like, I want more. I know I'm capable of more, but where do I even begin? And so I'm going to reiterate what you said because it's so freaking profound. Follow your excitement. Follow what lights you up. Follow the thing that triggers you. And I just really do truly believe that on the other side of that, the path starts to unfold. And that, to go back to the fork in the road moment, that's what we're talking about. You're at that fork in the road moment. Maybe your fork in the road moment isn't having PCOS, or for me, it was when my mum passed away. Maybe it's not super profound. Maybe it's simply that you've got this freaking pull and you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And can I also add a layer of expectation to what you said there?
Mm-hmm.
It always is hard. And this is where choose your hard is so relevant, because it's hard to stay in 9 to 5. It's hard to be a parent who takes their kid to daycare to have steady income. That's hard. It's also hard to try and navigate around children and try to create your dreams and have this business that you're building that's based off a mission, or it's hard to do new things. It's hard to learn new skills. It's all hard. Can we all just accept that it's always hard? If we can just, once we get past that and we're like, okay, if I'm growing, it's going to be hard. Great. Let's get past that because it's fucking hard. The end, every stage is going to require something new of you. That is growth. That is the journey. And then when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, when you actually, instead of waiting for the bus hitting you instead of, you know, listening to the feather stroke, that like maybe there's a different way. Instead of getting to that point, if we just go, wait, I remember it's always hard. So if I just get my big girl pants on and just know that this is actually going to be hard, why don't I choose something that actually lights me up instead of the other path that I think is safer, that's just going to be as hard in other ways anyway? And I think maybe Will Smith said this. He's like, oh, maybe it was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
It's like, you can fail at something you don't like. So why not fail at something you do like?
And, you know, I want to speak to, with you saying it's hard as well, again, for the listeners who are hearing this and that's triggering them, because that used to trigger me. And I'd be like, oh, I feel that it is hard, but it gets easier. And I know that sounds,
Because
it's like a muscle.
Because
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
And because your self-belief, which you must build, that is your work.
Yes.
Your work is to build your self-belief. Your work that you get to do that no one else can do is build your self-trust, because it's always hard. But when you rise to the occasion, when you build your skill set to match the level of hardness that it always is, that's when you get flow.
Yeah.
Nothing happens without action. So in order for you to take the action, you need to build the skills. So if you just focus on building the skills instead of focusing on how hard it's going to be, increase your internal capacity. And that's when you hit that break-even point, that's when it feels like flow. That's when everything starts to happen. That's when you're manifesting. That's when you're creating success in your life with whatever that looks like. So instead of being like, woe be me, it's fucking hard, it's always hard, I'm exhausted and it's hard. That is true. That is true. It's valid in feeling like that's fucking hard. And then once you move past that, okay, it is hard, and you feel, because goodness me, we're going to feel first. We have to fucking feel it first. We cannot just skip that part. You can't skip to the good part. You cannot do that. But once you feel it and then know, okay, now it's time to pick myself up. It's time to upskill. It's time to rise. The break-even point is where it feels neutral. And then when you increase your skills and capacity even more, that's when maybe the hardness comes back up, and then you go, okay, then now it's time to rise. It's always, every chapter is hard.
Well, you said it before, new levels, new devils. And I really want to find a new way of saying that. I've always tried to figure it out, but it's true, because it does bring. But the thing is, and I will speak to this, right? When I was thick in the PMDD and even previous to that, where I was always trying to make my dreams come true, but I was getting in my own way and all the things, I used to be like it can't always be this hard. And here's the proof. And I think you can attest to this as well. Life is so much easier now, but also the hard is contributing to the things that I truly want it to. So the hard is no longer contributing to just getting undone in all the shit. I've done the undoing, and I do think that there's a period for most people in their life, they have to do the undoing. They have to go through the shedding, right? They have to shed to then move forward. I'm past that shedding point now. Everything I'm doing now is contributing to my life in such a greater way. Yes, it's still hard. Yes, it still has its challenges. But once you get past that undoing, and then you can start contributing to your dreams, your bank account, you know, your loved ones, all of the things, and making an impact in your own way. Sure, it doesn't need to be fertility. It doesn't need to be personal development like I'm doing. Your thing will be your thing, but you start to feel how good it feels. And that leads me to the feeling of alignment. I truly do believe that that's what it feels like to be in alignment for me, is when it's not that it's not hard. It's not that there's not challenges, and it's not that I'm there yet, but everything I'm doing is contributing to the things I want to. And that leads me to my question to you. What does alignment feel like in the body for you? And yeah, emotionally and physically, what does alignment feel like to you?
Alignment feels like things happen fast, and like there's no other option that it could be. Like, it's just, this is the next right thing to do. It's like it feels divinely planned. That's what it feels like. That's what alignment feels like. And like, what does it feel like in your body? I actually think it feels like feeling like you're more than your body. Like you've got these physical like cells and skin. And even though we think that that's solid, we're actually just like cells, just like hanging out in the wind. And we're actually not solid. So wild to think. But that's our human senses. But that we are beyond our body, like literally beyond ourselves. Like imagining like a big bubble around you, like that's what you really is. You're like 3 meters wide. If you're the Dalai Lama, you're like 3 kilometers wide, but the you has this sphere of influence, of impact, of contribution is actually like beyond your physical self. So like alignment for me feels like certainty. It feels like speed without things being like effort. So yeah, so it's not the hard part. The hard part comes first. Then the next part is it feels easy. And that's the dance of life, right? And it feels good. It just feels good. Your nervous system feels regulated and you just feel excited, but then also calm and grounded that is the right thing to come next.
If somebody wants to feel in alignment and they don't know what the hell you just said, they've never felt that before, and you and I have been there where we haven't yet really felt that in our earlier years, what do you think is the first step for a person to take to feel more in alignment with their life?
Be silent, be still, and then eventually be brave. So you're silent, you block out the noise around you, you don't listen to what other people say. You spend as much time as you can each and every single day to be silent, to be quiet, to quieten the thoughts in your mind that most often aren't yours, to see if you can hear your inner voice. And that will take time, but knowing yourself comes from, and knowing what decision to make, knowing what path to take, knowing what your instrument to play in the orchestra of life actually is, which is different to everybody else's, is knowing yourself, knowing who you are. And that can only happen when you're silent and still, and you slow down and you listen to the inside and you let the inside talk to you instead of getting all this external stimulus. So that's why meditation is so effective, or stillness, or quiet, or journaling,
yeah,
or self-talk. You can't talk to yourself when everyone's talking to you. You can't. There's too many voices. It's too much noise. So quietening your mind, being still, being silent. And then once you feel like you know yourself and you know at least the next step on the path, because you've got that feedback on how you feel, then being brave and taking that action, which you're never going to be ready for, by the way. You have to be brave first, ready later. And taking that action to know, okay, this is the next step on the path. Yeah.
I just love that response so much. And I think I want to go to the next level because there are so many women that are going to be listening to this that are at a stage in their life where they have built up that alignment. They have gotten to that place. And now they're about to do something that's even scarier, similar to what you did with Fertility Magic, similar to what you did with joining a controversial business. Like those next levels, like how do you stay in alignment? So we've just spoken about how you sort of get there, but how do you stay? What does your day look like, Dee Zibara, to keep you in a place where you can hold this shit, you know?
It looks like always knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing. So whether I write that down or I know that in my head, or literally I just look at my kids every day, it's actually so easy to be anchored into your why when you're a parent, I think. Because you literally you look at your children, you're like, well, I have to build a good future for them. There's just like no other option. Yeah. It's like a life hack to like personal development and being successful, have kids. But anchoring back to my why am I doing what I'm doing? And always looking at the bigger picture, always zooming out. But then again, I am a big picture person. So that might just be my projector vibes coming through of like big picture, but like really always be focused on like what it is that you're doing, and then take it back to, okay, what step can I take today that I know will get me as a vibrational match to the thing that I want? And so in other words, how can I recreate the feeling of what I think I will have when I get the thing that I say that I want today?
Manifestation, essentially.
Exactly. So it's like, let's say, for example, I love singing in the car. I feel so good when I sing in the car. I feel so free.
And you have the most beautiful voice. Oh my gosh. No, you really do.
But for me, that's like, for me, that gets me to a place, this like beautiful, like dream state where I have those moments in my head of, this is living. This is life. This is joy. This is fun. This is pleasure. This is freedom. This is flow. And so recreating that on a day-to-day basis as much as I possibly can, that's how I stay in alignment. That's how I have to do it. Now, for me, now there's other tools that I use. So journaling was a huge one. It has always been a really huge one for me, but I find that I really run out of time to journal at the moment, especially because like I'm traveling so much. I can barely keep like, we're living on such minimal things.
To be honest, I'm your journal with voice clips. Let's be real.
You know what? That's so true. And so like either writing things down myself or talking to people I really care about, or just like getting out of my mind what I have in there that then removes all the noise of the ruminating thoughts that also aren't really mine, and being able to go, okay, if I say that out loud, does that feel like me? Oh no, that actually doesn't feel like me. Okay, I'll put that over there in that's someone else's thoughts box. To sift through and go, what do I actually think about this? What do I actually feel about this? Which you can only really do when you're silent and still. And I will use different tools at the moment that help me kind of get to where I need to go faster. Breathwork has been that for me. And I'm actually becoming a breathwork facilitator. I'll be by the middle of next year, because I find it's been a really useful tool to eliminate things quickly, to do that sifting process really fucking fast.
Yep.
To clean that diamond really fucking fast.
Yep.
And so for me, using things that I feel at each chapter are useful, just putting that into my day-to-day life. So I'll meditate most days. I will do breath work. I'll do a big breath work flow like once a month. And that's really helped with my beautiful friend and mentor, Hayley Lloyd. Being part of her container has been really helpful for me, because that's really introduced me to a breath work I had done previously that I'm like, oh, I can actually, this is a resource I can pull into my day-to-day life to get me closer, to get me back in that high vibration. But also things like EFT tapping has been really helpful for me. Literally tapping into my nervous system, the good things I want my body to know about me.
But I think what you're saying here is that it's all the little things. Even the singing in the car, people overlook that sometimes. For me, it's dancing in the kitchen. I think it's about, and going back to what you said of that self-discovery, coming home to yourself, learning who you are and what feels good for you. My daily routine looks completely different to your daily routine. You've always known I'm a sunrise walk girly through and through. That's what gets me to that heightened state. But I think what you're really speaking to there is that self-exploration of finding out what works for you. And I will say this firsthand, I have tested so many different routines and things and ways of throughout my cycle as well that work for me that maybe wouldn't work for you, and vice versa. But what I love that you've highlighted there and what you've said is it's still just about finding the things that put you in the energetic state that's going to keep you going. Because nobody can build a life that feels in alignment, I feel, from a place of fear. And a place of fear comes from not tapping into yourself. So whatever you need to do that helps you to tap into yourself daily, multiple times a day, that's, I feel, what is going to keep you in alignment or get you there.
And it's trial and error, right? It's trial and error. So if you want to get the future feeling and bring it into now, or bring it into the near future after the feeling that you're going to get when you get the thing that you say that you want. If you focus on finding the feeling, here's how you do it. You just try a whole bunch of shit. And once you figure out which of those things felt really good for you, that's the thing that you do until you find a thing that feels better. And then either you do both of those things, or if time doesn't allow it, you do the thing that feels the best for you. That's it. That's literally it. And you just do that every single day, or as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. And I think that coming back to not by chance, the life not by chance, right? That is really about building a life on purpose. And I think that that is what you're doing daily. That is what I do daily, is living a life not by chance. And I think that it really does go back to what you were saying at the start of this episode around, you can't really do things from a place where you're when you're struggling, and when your body is struggling, when your mind is struggling from that place. And I've tried to build all the routines, I've tried to do all the things, and it didn't work because I was so overwhelmed. My system was so overwhelmed, physically, mentally, spiritually. So I think that it's like this goes in different stages, which is what I think we're really speaking to in this entire episode. Not by chance. And as you've got, like, for anyone who's gone back and listened to my story, you're hearing my evolution. It's why the name of this episode is The Evolution of Dee Zibara. And each guest episode will be called that. It's about their evolution. You're hearing Dee's evolution. She is in a place now where she has a 6-figure business, on her way to her millions. She's on purpose. She's doing all the things. But how you got to that place wasn't by chance. It really was a step-by-step process. It was doing the thing. And that's why I love everything that you've given is such realistic advice, and you're giving the evidence of how that's shown up in your life as well. So I absolutely love that. And I think if we're talking about hacks and supporting tools and supporting things, one of, I feel, the greatest hacks of my life for my growth and my development and just my happiness has been friendship. Truly, it's been our friendship. I truly believe that the more soul aligned friends, the more friendships that I have that feel truly in alignment with me, the more I am me. It has been the best self-discovery hack I've ever had. You make me feel so incredibly seen in our friendship. And what that has helped me to do in the world, it's allowed me to show up and be brave and believe in myself. Sometimes we can't always believe in ourselves, and we need someone else to believe in us. Now, if you don't have that person, ChatGPT is a fantastic tool to do that for you. And I'm not joking when I say that, but genuinely, if you're not in that place where you yet have that, I completely hear you. And I do want to stay touched on that friendship and just what it's like, because you and I, we have this in common where we have felt too much in our life. We have felt too deep, too intense. Everyone who's hearing this conversation now, we talk about the deep stuff. This is our conversations every time we talk. We're talking about, it's not, so what's going on with Billy at the moment? What's happening here? It's like, so, what was your biggest breakthrough lately? And like, for some people that is intense, and that's fine. We've definitely found each other, and I feel we feel seen by one another, and we don't feel alien with one another. And I feel that those kind of friendships are so damn important. I first want to ask, what has our friendship meant to you? And then I want to talk a little bit about how women can find more of those people to bring into their lives.
It's so hard, I feel, when you feel like too much, like in some way, shape, or form, when you feel like you're too much, your pain is too much for someone else to carry, or your wins are too much for someone else to handle, or your dreams are too much for someone to comprehend. When you have people in your life, like you have been for me, where I can just be 100% my raw self and just like be like, this is me. Mm-hmm. And you just accept me fully and see me, and actually like also celebrate my wins like they're yours. Like for me, that's been literal medicine to my soul. It honestly has been. And something I have learned from you that I think so few friendships have is, can you lovingly call each other forward?
Oh, yeah, sorry about those.
You don't understand what a gift those have been for me. Really, you don't, because I am someone who's grown up to be agreeable. I've been taught, be agreeable, that's how you'll be loved. And you have challenged me in our friendship multiple times. And it's not up to me, it's not up to you for you to figure out how I should feel about that. You were just lovingly calling me forward. And some people will say this, calling you out which some people don't think that you should do that with your friends. They're the fucking people you should do that with. They are the people you should do that with, especially when they are like-minded souls that you know that you can, or you hope that you can share something with. And you hope that their response is going to be like, first they need to like handle their human, feel their feelings about the thing, go inwards and go, is this a me thing? Is this a, you know, something that happens
Is
in my
this a me thing?
Yeah. And, you know, like, whose is it and what are you going to do with it? And just like an intimate relationship, when you have that like moment of like, okay, there's something here for us to work through, there's something here for us to work out, not because you're trying to call the other person out, but you can see something that that person cannot. It's up to you to not take it personally and to go, am I going to suffer from this moment or am I going to grow from this moment? And I know for myself, I got a growth mindset. I am not going to let any pain be without purpose. Not on my watch. Like, what's the point in suffering just to suffer? What's the point?
Could not agree more.
So if we don't make it mean something for our greater good, then it's kind of all for nothing. And so for me, you've really helped me grow as a friend. And that is so big in female relationships, especially because saying that you don't like something about something that I've done, if we were in high school, I'd be like, oh, she's a bitch, because that's what society tells us to say about people.
Yeah. Just talk behind each other's backs and never actually have a conversation in person.
Exactly. Which is what you did. You didn't go to anybody else. And, you know, like, this is probably sounding bigger than Ben Hur, like with the, like, you know, of the conversations that we've had, sometimes like, hey babe, like, I just want to share something, and I'm sorting out if this is, you know, a me thing or an us thing or a you thing or whatever. But like, it's almost like we're using each other as a soundboard.
Yeah, as a journal.
What it is. And yeah, it's a live dynamic journal. And for me, like, that's just been, you've just given me such big lessons that, again, in another place where I was afraid to be too much, I actually saw someone inspire me to be the muchness that they are.
Yeah.
And my response to that was, oh, well, there's just some medicine in this for us. That's fine. We're going to move through that. We're going to grow through that, because like there's love deeply rooted in everything she's sharing with me. Because for me, I was able to go, okay, well, if there's medicine there for me, I can't just go around and assume that like every time I share someone with someone that I love, that they're going to take it poorly, because I didn't take it poorly. So all I need to do now is find people who are like-minded, like me, with growth mindsets, who actually truly care about each other, who are heart-led people. And I can be the muchness and the moreness that I am, and no one's going to ask me to be less.
And before we move to the next part of that question around finding those people, I want to stay on that because I think it speaks to how we've had to show up for one another and wanted to show up. Speaking to your example, I came into those conversations with only love. And as I said, with humility of like, I might not be right here. This may be a me thing. Hey, Dee, this is what came up for me when we spent this time together. This was what's going on, blah, blah, blah. How did you feel? And I think that goes to learning to communicate from a human place and a willingness to understand the other person, not a defensive place, and not, you know, I want to hurt this person, but more of a place of like, I really want to share this because I truly believe this is going to make our friendship better. And I will speak to this because you're not the only friend who has said this about me. I do have the hard conversation. I really do that. And I know that that's not easy for everyone, but I want to be proof for people that it will enrich your relationships tenfold. And it does take bravery, because there's some friendships that you may not feel safe to do that with, and that's okay, but you can only try. Every single one of my friendships, I felt that I wasn't safe to do that with, and I did it anyway, proved me wrong. Every single one of them. Maybe they weren't it wasn't the easiest conversation. There was a little bit we needed to sort of sort through, but what came out on the other side was only a better friendship, or I walked away from the friendship because it just wasn't aligned. So I really appreciate you sharing that. That means a lot to me that I am that person for you and that I've been that way. And I think it really speaks to how we've shown up as friends for one another because you've done the same for me, the way that you have shown up in this friendship. And yeah, I guess in that way, can you talk to me a little bit around what you feel women could do in order to call in more salt, like practical steps? Because it's like making friends as adults is really difficult. What do you feel like has been the best way for you to make friends as an adult?
Is literally to be nothing but myself.
Mm,
And in
yeah.
those moments where you're like challenged a little bit to say something you actually don't mean because you feel like the moment requires it, or do something that is actually not something you would normally do, like being purely yourself and letting other people be wrong about you until they get to know you is the most potent, powerful way to make friends. And sure, there are, finding people who have other values that you have, and you will most likely line up on many more values as a result of finding someone that has a particular value. You'll know what that common denominator is. For me, it's health, actually. For me, it's health. When I have people that are like really conscious of their health and really on the path to learn how to do the best for their body and their mind, for me, I know that that's a common denominator. We're going to marry up on a lot of values. And so for me, putting myself in the room with those kinds of people, literally networking. And I think this is why I love my like MLM business is so much, because that's networking. You're literally putting yourself in a room with a whole bunch of people that are so similar to you in their values and diverse in their, other ways, but are so similar to you in your values that you're like, I feel seen and held by this entire stadium of people. And actually going to those places and being in the same room where possible, virtual room, if you live across the world and you're an internet friend, but being in the same room where possible, that is where you have that embodied experience where you're like, oh my gosh, that faith that I had before where I felt like I was crazy and I was wondering, is there anybody else like me? And staying true to yourself, that's how you then find the rooms to be in.
Why I'm smiling is because I actually scrolled back to our very first Instagram messages where
Cute.
it was, I think it was July 2020. We'd spoken before that, but that was like my first on your business account. And I DM'd it, the stories disappeared, but I DM'd something going, oh my gosh, this is so on point. Love this. Whatever my comment was. And to your point of it doesn't need to be a physical room, DM the story, comment on the post, send the person a message, like treat it like dating. I really do believe that's what it is. If I hadn't have reached out to you and DM'd your story and we'd started a conversation, then we learned we had the same values and blah, 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 blah. That's where I truly think that you find these people. It's even having the chat. I made a friend up here in Byron just from talking to a girl in the line at a cafe. So I really do think that it comes in, and sorry, to go back to what you were saying about business and Anagic and all of that, it's also, I think, pursuing the things in life you just want to pursue. If you love physical fitness, joining the gym and meeting people, but and I know people say that and it's like, yeah, that's great, but like, how do I actually do that? Go up to the girl, go up to her and say, oh my God, I love your activewear set. Like, where did you get it? Start with a compliment. And from that place, the amount of conversations that happen, and I think you draw in your soul aligned friends. And I cannot tell you what a game changer it is in your happiness.
Agreed. And also, if you don't know of those rooms, can I tell you the easiest way to find them is
Please.
share your stories, share your wins on social media.
Yeah.
If you don't have in people friends, share them on social media or Facebook or whatever, like share them, because that's attraction marketing. If you want to try to find your right client fit, or you want to try to find your right friend fit, just simply show people what you're about and what you got on offer, and the right people will look. They don't know if you've got an amazing like-minded castle in the desert unless you tell them about it. It's like a secret that nobody knows. if you're willing and brave enough to show up as you truly are, whether in person, at a cafe, at work, at home, whatever, or on socials, then other people will go, oh, there's an alien like me too. And that's the only way that they will know that you're a freak like them. That's the only way.
Yeah, find your freaks. Oh my gosh.
I encourage people to do that. And this is what this is like, I've just gone through a huge like digital marketing, like understanding how do I pull in my like heart aligned clients? Like, I don't want the fluff. I don't want people who want to talk about the weather. I want the people, and the first question they ask me is something about like, what's your goals in life? Or like,
what's your deepest childhood trauma?
Yeah, exactly. Literally every conversation we have. But like, that's the kind of people that I want, even as clients. So for me, like learning and understanding that from an attraction point of view of attraction marketing, and like marketing to, for network marketing and for like direct sales and MLM and Enagic, has also actually helped me to realize how to do that in relationships.
Yeah.
It's literally like, actually put yourself on show, let people see who you really are, and know that the people that are meant to fall away will fall away, maybe with a fight, like a negative DM comment or something like that, where they try to say something that because they're a keyboard warrior and they don't have time with their life, but eventually they'll fall away. And only the people that will be left standing will be the people that are perfectly aligned to you on your path, not a perfect match, but a perfect match for where you are right now.
Yeah.
They're meant to be in your life. They're going to teach you lots of lessons. They're also going to connect with you and help you feel like you've got a companion on the journey. Like whatever that looks like, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friendship or a business relationship or whatever, finding those people is going to help you to feel like you're seen, to feel like you're understood, to feel like, oh shit, people actually like care what I'm going through. It's really nice that like I can share the journey with other people and not feel so alone.
And I deeply care, babe. And that is what is created in these friendships. And I guess why this is even part of the episode is because I truly do believe this is what supports a life not by chance, a life on purpose, because I think that all of these components, like the health, the wealth, the happiness. And that's why I've brought up a lot of the things I have today, because I think it all just goes in so beautifully together. Look, I think we've done our big one on this. I think we've done plenty. And I think this is probably not going to be the only time you are on this podcast, because we have there's still more to go. I've still got more to go, but I am going to leave it there because I feel like this is perfectly in sync with what I wanted this episode to be about for the listeners, for people who really just want, and there's so many different, speaking of dream clients, like my dream listeners really are of a few different, I guess you could say areas of life, but the main driver is they want more out of life. They do believe they're capable of more. And you are true evidence, babe, of living a life that way. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing and being so brave on this, to share from an honest place. You have not held back, and I really, really appreciate that. Now, there could have been a million more things we could have gone into, and we probably will another time, but I just appreciate the honesty, and essentially everything you've said in this podcast, you've shown up as that today. So I just want to say thank you so much for doing this with me, being my first ever guest on Not By Chance. Now, I am going to put in the show notes where you can find Dee. I'm going to put all of her Instagram details and her website and all of the things. If you are somebody, or you know somebody who is struggling with fertility or your hormones and health, I urge you to follow Dee and get in touch with her to have a chat around that with fertility. I think that is just like what you are so damn good at, and you are changing the landscape. You really are. And I'm so excited to see what is going to come in just the next few years. But when I think decades, this is going to be so incredible. And I truly do believe the impact you are making is massive. So thank you for being here. And yeah, I do have one last final question to close this out. What does Not By Chance mean to you?
It means not being alone. And so if your path is divinely timed, if things aren't actually by chance, that must mean that there is a whole spiritual team walking it with you, right? But then obviously you just have to be brave enough to take the steps. So actually it means not being alone. And even though it can feel isolating at times, I actually wrote down a sentence I would love to read to just like leave people with this. Even though sometimes, like I said, it does really feel a little bit lonely to walk the path that no one else has walked quite like the way that you'll walk it. Always choose the road less traveled, because even if it doesn't work out, you can always fall back on the well-worn path. But if it does work out, you might just change the world.
If I could drop this, I would, but it's a bit expensive,
Don't
so we
drop
won't. Oh, that is perfection, and I'm going to leave it there. Dee Zibara, I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved this episode, please share it with a loved one, and I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review and a comment. It really helps to support my podcast and get my message out there. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Alex Manstead. And one of my favorite things to do is have chats with people about life. Nothing is too big or too much, so please feel free to message me. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, dream big, love deeply, and live boldly.